What's your advice to someone who is lost?
The opposite of addiction is connection, and I could never do this thing on my own.
I've been working since I was a kid. I just gotta keep my head.
That you're responsible for and that your name's attached to, do you feel like that gave you that responsibility to be better than you were?
That's when it all began. I don't need a rollie on my.
When you believe in yourself a little bit, you'd be surprised what could happen.
I got them fed up for real, riding around, but I'm the passenger now, cause Jesus don't touch them.
Made it a little bit faster than people thought we deserved.
Right.
You know?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Loft.
Came in hot today.
We have none other than Jason Weiss. He, for those who don't know, you probably have seen him at Ubon, HQ nightclub in AC, essentially everywhere. This man is he's a vet. You know, he's been around for a long time. He's the CEO of Double Down Entertainment. It's a lot of exciting stuff in Wildwood that we're going to talk about. But Jason, thanks. Welcome to the pod.
Bro, listen, sorry it took me so long to get here.
No, man. Listen, for those, I wanted to have him on for a while, but obviously schedules are crazy, and he had a Monday. He's got back from karate. So
I did. Not for me.
we're able to chop it up a little bit. But thanks for coming on. And listen, I've been seeing you around the industry as I start getting myself into the industry and nightlife. I've been noticing like certain people around, and you're someone I've always wanted to meet. We've said hello to each other a few times at Pace and Blossom here and there, or,
sure.
Here and there through mutual friends. But just have you sit down and learn more about you is like, I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Listen, thanks for having me. Like I said, sorry it took me so long to get
It's all
here.
good, bro. But yeah, so listen, you have a lot going on right now, and
I do.
We'll get into that, but first I want to know where Jason Weiss started, right? So how did you get into DJing? What was your first gig, and talk me through that.
Sure.
and the progression of that.
So I went to Penn State for college.
I went to Temple.
I know, I heard. I heard all your and Mike's love for Temple.
I'm surprised you're even here.
Listen, I don't have any hatred for Temple, man. Listen, I'm not one of those. But I went to Penn State. I went to a very, very small high school. I graduated with 105 kids in my class in North Jersey.
Okay.
I grew up in Springfield, New Jersey, which is like 15, 20 minutes outside of the city.
Yeah.
And the city is people that grew up in North Jersey refer to it as. But yeah, so I went to Penn State. My first class in college had like 4 times the amount of kids in my whole high school. Like there was like, I think it was double my entire high school. I think there was like 800 kids in this class. I only graduated with 100 kids in each grade.
Those lecture halls are crazy, man.
Crazy. And I'll never forget, I sat next to my one friend from high school that went to school there, and we kind of looked at each other like, what the fuck did we just get into? Like, there's literally more people in this one class than in our entire... But my childhood wasn't all that fun. So it was nice to go somewhere with a lot of
new faces.
Yeah, just like you could kind of reinvent yourself there, you know, and you could kind of reestablish who you were. So I wound up joining a fraternity, and I was, every pledge gets a job when they're pledging or whatever. And I was talking to the guy, and we wanted to know, you know a lot about music. And I was like, nah, I just love music. I'd never DJed a day in my life, like never. He was the house DJ at the fraternity. He didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted to party. Like he had had enough. Like he had had enough of working the events.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, listen, he's still one of my best friends to this day. I was a groomsman in his wedding. He was a groomsman in mine.
That's awesome.
Like we're very, very close. I talk to the kid every single day, and he's DJ for me in Philly.
Oh yeah,
yeah, which is a whole full circle kind of thing.
What's his name? What's his DJ?
So it's Josh Schreiber. Goes by DJ Hawk. One of my shout out to Josh. Literally one of my oldest friends. But he just didn't want to do it. He was smoking too much weed and having too much fun, and just like he just had enough. Like
it's an opportunity for you.
Yeah, and like so I started doing it, and it was the days before Serato, and turntables have always been a thing, but this was like the CDJ age. It's kind of where I started backwards. Like most people start with vinyl and go to CD. I started with CD and wound up going back to vinyl.
Are you back to vinyls now?
Oh no, so there was a period of time I was vinyls. I'll take the CDJs pretty much over anything if I had to choose. But so I started there, and my job as a pledge was to play the music, and we were burning fucking CDs every day because they were scratching, and had a mixer that had a crazy effects pad on it that I had no idea how to use, and it was absolutely terrible. So I started there, and I started playing every Thursday and Friday at my house, and then Saturday I would book a sorority gig, or I would book a something, and we would just go from there, right? But then I kind of had enough, and I graduated and moved to Philly, and thought there was no way I could possibly do this for a real job. Like there's too many amazing, talented DJs that came from here, and I was just a kid in college playing in a frat party, you know?
Right.
But I went to this place called Mission Grill, which Mike talked about when he was on here, and my buddy was DJing, and he wound up getting sick, and the venue was like, oh my God, like they were doing this guest bartender thing, and one of my friends was guest bartending. He's like, well, you know, Weiss can do it, and I didn't know, and I was like, fuck, okay, like all right, like
let's take a shot.
And so we walked in there a couple weeks prior. And my kid I knew was DJing, and I love this kid, and I won't say his name, but it just wasn't very good. And like, and so I remember looking at Josh, and being like, because I was with Josh, who taught me in college, and I was like, we could do this better. And we got all drunk and went home and bought equipment, and we went to his house all the time in practice, because this when Serato came out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh well, Weiss can do it. I was like, fuck, I don't know how to use that. I don't know how to play here.
Yeah.
We wound up playing together. We had to bring all the equipment, all the gear. We got paid $200. It was a joke.
Damn.
Monitors, everything. And I didn't know how to use Serato the right way yet. We were clueless. But the GM liked us, and he had a good time. And he's like, can you guys come here every Friday and Saturday? And I was looking for a way to go out but not really party all that much, because I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a job. And started at Mission Grill. And then all of a sudden, it was like, can you be here every Friday and Saturday? I was like, oh, shit. And then all of a sudden it was, it was owned by Public House, and Public House was a monster at that time. And then Nick Montone and I became friends. But it was all a weird progression. I never intended on. I wasn't like Mike, who knew music was going to be in his life.
Right.
I worked for a law firm in college. I worked for a law firm for 11 years while I was building this business. Like oh
wow.
Yeah, I did all of that, and we could talk about whether or not that's the right path or not. But it just kind of happened to me, and I really liked it. And then all of a sudden it got bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden it was like, well, hey, like, can you be here? And I was like, well, I can't be everywhere, so maybe I'll just see if they can't have me, will they take one of my guys? Right. And that's really how it started. Like, Jason's at Mission, Montone's at Fieldhouse or at Public House or Fieldhouse, but we need a guy for Fieldhouse. Like, we can't be everywhere at the same time, so. All right, well, maybe Hawk will take Fieldhouse now. Okay, so now there's 3 of us, and then they need another something and another, and all of a sudden it was like, do we have a company? Like, are we a booking it? Like, do we have a company? Like, what are we?
How old were you when that happened? When that started?
I got my first Philadelphia DJ gig. I was probably 23 years old. Okay. Probably around then. And then we were at Mission for years. I played Mission Grill for 3 or 4 years, like consistently. Just that's where I'll tell everybody, I learned my chops there. I learned how to play empty rooms there. I learned how to play happy hours there. I learned how to play for the staff there, which has become a crucial part of my success.
That's huge.
Yeah, huge. It's in order of who you play for. It's the staff, the patrons, and then everybody else.
It's so interesting that you mentioned playing for the staff, because it's funny because I got my start at Patty Wax Welsh.
Okay.
And that place kind of raised me essentially because, I was there for a while, and then, you eventually start to outgrow certain things. And I was kind of forced out of it too because of the whole like shooting thing that happened there. Yeah. But then it really kind of pushed me back and thinking, oh, I need to expand a little bit, grow myself a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. And how long, so when did Double Down become official?
So Double Down was officially a company 2013. Okay. It was Double Down DJs for a while because it was just me and Josh. And I have an affinity for playing blackjack. So when I was coming up with the name of a company, Double Down, yeah, I was like, oh, like there's 2 of us, and like we can make a dumb casino logo, and like it just was a whole thing. And then, but it was just 2 of us. It was just Double Down DJs, and eventually it got to the point where they were hiring Jason. Josh was over here, and it was, like I said, it just kind of molded into something more than what I thought it was originally going to be. But my first gig was at Mission for years, and then like I said, all the companies were owned by all the bars were owned by the same parent company. So the GM of Mission was said to Montone, like, yo, I have this guy, like he's pretty good and like he's fun, and the patrons are coming to see him. Like, you should talk to him about Public House. And so Nick and I started talking. And maybe this will give everyone some history on why I'm so hard on certain things. Yeah. But I had a Thursday gig at Public House, and I was playing, and Nick Montone walked in, and he walked right up to the DJ booth, and Nick was like the guy at the time. He was the resident at Public House. Public House was as hot as could be, and he walked right up to me, and he looked me in the face and goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, I thought I was DJ. I don't know. I don't know. How do you want me to fucking answer that?
Should I be somewhere else?
I don't know. Like, what? And he's like, you're all over the place. The set doesn't make sense. And I was like, oh, all right, you got it. I'm definitely going to do great now that, I'm definitely not flustered at all. And he was like, do you want to get better at this? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, all right, well then come and call me during the week. Okay. Now I'm shitting myself in the middle of a DJ gig. Like I'm sitting there with a guy just like literally is the boss here and reamed me the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I called him and I started trying to get cut from my gigs early at Mission. And I was taking half the pay so I could go around the corner and hear him finish. And why I stood next to him for, I can't even tell you how many gigs I stood next to Montone for, and just watched how he played the room. And I was always in awe of how he moved through genres and how he moved through, just fast. Just he's so clean and so fast. Yeah. And his musical knowledge was so deep that I used to literally just stand next to him and watch him. And then we became friends. And then the friendship was like, all right, well, you're here and I'm here, but we need someone here. And then then Double Down DJs became Double Down Entertainment, which was, now it's just not two guys playing music. There's a couple people involved. And then it kind of spiraled from there. But yeah, 2000, I graduated college in 2005. My first DJ gig was probably 2006 or 7. The company didn't really become a real company until I'd say 2010 or 11. Okay. And then when it became like a real booking agency was probably like 2013, 2014.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of where it's kind of started.
That's great. That's awesome. Would you consider Montone a mentor?
Oh yeah. Montone and I have been friends for a lot of years. Absolutely. The dude is great dad. I learned most of what I'm able to balance about nightlife and family from him, for sure. One of my favorite DJs in the country, always has been. And things obviously change and regret and get different over the years. Like, there was a time where that was my mentor, and then there was a time where he was doing a lot of gigs for my company, and that was a tricky dynamic to navigate sometimes. But yeah, as far as a mentor goes, 100%.
Cool. And
100%.
And you mentioned family life. You have 2 daughters.
I do.
Correct.
I do.
And I see they're the light of your life.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky.
How does that balance work? Because when you're a dad during the day and you're a DJ at night. So how does that work?
It's hard. It's not all as easy as the partying has to chill. The everything nightlife has to chill. But I have a very, very, very solid partner, and we've been together since college, so it's not like she came in the middle of the shit. But yeah, like I can't make it work without her. So we'll start there. But you do what you got to do for your family. Like you always have to do what you got to do for your family. So when I go from the nightclub to gymnastics or to dance or to karate or to whatever, it's because they asked me to, and I'm not gonna be a scumbag, like I'm not just gonna be like, oh, I'm out partying, sorry, I can't make it. So you just do what you got to do. Sleep isn't really a thing that we're good at, but I was never good at sleeping. So
yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, listen, man, I'm very, very, very fortunate. I'm very lucky. They are the girls they're both special in very, very different ways, but it's cool. It's cool to see everyone's personality kind of coming out, and it's cool to see my oldest daughter be such a supportive, sister to her little sister, and yeah, it's just cool.
Do they have any? Do they take a little bit after what you enjoy as well? Like, so what are some things you might have instilled in them that you've taken from your upbringing?
Well, listen, my dad was a super hard worker. He owned his own accounting firm, and he was always running and working and stuff like that. I want them to understand. I mean, there's an old Warren Buffett quote. I want my kids to feel like they have enough that they could do anything, but not enough that they have to do nothing. I'd like them to take my work ethic and my drive and take my wife's compassion and sensitivity and heart and put them together. And in most cases they have, which is what's the coolest for me to see. Like Maddie is incredibly, incredibly smart, but incredibly sensitive. And Elle can be tough as nails, but funny as hell. Right. And like, it's cool to watch them both kind of figure out who they are while trying to like see parts of us in them, Right. Like I said earlier, the people that love me. The people that don't. And I don't think we have enough time to deep dive into that. We can, but I'm just very, sometimes I don't feel like I'm made for this generation, if that makes sense.
Elaborate.
So like, I'm very blunt and I'm very to the point and I'm very transparent. Like if I love you, I love you too. And I love you super hard. And if I don't fuck with you, then I really don't fuck with you. And sometimes it's not personal. Like I built this brand from nothing. Like we started with me and my buddy Josh in his living room or his second living room practicing once a week, you know? Right. And no one really supported that. I was the lawyer. I was the guy that worked at the law firm because I was never a lawyer. I was the kid that worked at the law firm that was getting DJ gigs. And the community didn't really welcome me in with open arms at all. No one taught me anything. No one, other than Montone and Mike Alba and some other names, like no one really gave me a chance to even explain where I came from or who I was. Or like, I loved music and I've always loved music. And I really, really love making people have a good time while they're out. But this didn't come without a lot of backlash. And so sometimes I'm a little rough around the edges and a little too direct sometimes for maybe some of, because a lot of it, I know Mike touched on a little bit, the social media stuff and the marketing, I've been through it all. Like I've seen it all. I'm old as shit. I had a fucking Mickey Mouse phone with the wheel that turns in my bedroom growing up. Like I'm old, man. Like I'm 41 years old. You know, I got 2 kids and a wife and a nice little business and hoping a nicer little business with Wildwood. But sometimes the one thing I could say that I have to get better at with the rough around the edges shit is I have to remember a lot of times that the people I'm dealing with in my business are also people I love and care about. And sometimes I'm not good at discerning the two. Yeah, like I could scream at you about DJing and tell you fucked up at a gig and this and that. And then I'd call you and be like, yo, you want to go eat? Yeah. That's my that's my psychological issues.
I think the normal person would probably be like, oh, he just, insulted me or whatever. Or I think there's a difference between feedback and just straight up insulting someone.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely. But when it comes to this business, I always say, when someone's like, well, do they work for Double Down? Like, no, they work with Double Down. Like, I don't think anybody that DJs through Double Down works for me. Maybe that's not the right way of looking at it. I look at it as they work with me. I can't be in those accounts if those people aren't standing there physically. I'm only one human being. Yeah. So, and I understand the paycheck is coming from me, and I get all that. But what I have to get better at, and where I'm probably maybe a little misunderstood, if that's the right word, is just because I say no to something or just because I do, it doesn't mean I don't love and care about you. It just didn't feel right for the business. And sometimes I have to get better at separating the fact that I'm hurting people's feelings when I say no to them. But I also need to be allowed to say no to somebody that isn't the right fit, Well,
that's the difference between business and friendship, and you can have both. There has to be a balance. And I could sympathize because when you do start something from the ground up, it is your baby. Sure. And like to have something come in that maybe throws the energy off or throws the vibe off, there comes a time where the hard decisions need to be made, but that's why it's your business, right?
Like, have you ever had anybody call up and ask to be on this podcast that you didn't want to be on?
All the time.
Right. And so, like, in this world, maybe, it's not as taken, like, you could kind of blow somebody off, right? I look like I'm gatekeeping every gig that Double Down's a part of. and I'm not necessarily, listen, like, you know what I'm saying? It looks like, like there was a bunch of years back where a younger DJ had asked to work at one of our venues, and I have the email chains. Like, I wasn't a dickhead to this kid. I just said, hey man, like, thanks for reaching out. We're not looking to add anybody to the rotation at this time. And all of a sudden, like, my face was plastered. One of my Dare flyers with my face on it for headlining had a clown emoji on top of it. And like, imagine having a wife and kids and like blocking a young DJ just looking at, like,
that dude did that?
Yeah, like, homie, like, I don't know you, and I also don't owe you anything. Right. And you weren't the right fit. It was a Double Down account for a reason. Right. And it was my calendar and my discretion. They were paying us to make those decisions. Right. But all of a sudden, there was this, and all the comments like, oh yeah, he's a jerk off. He's like, I didn't know any of these people, and I felt like an asshole.
Nah, you shouldn't.
But I didn't know that, and like I have no idea who the fuck they were. Like. And it was this whole group of people that hated my guts that I had no idea who they were.
You are doing something right, though.
I guess.
And I'll say this because if you're getting engagement or you're getting people that are asking you for things, obviously you're building something. And at the end of the day, it is your right to say yes or no.
Sure.
It's something you've built in your living room with your boy, and it's like it's a relationship thing. If there's no trust, like how are you supposed to trust some kid that you've never met or whatever,
right?
To play at a place that trusts you, because it's a representation of you. You mentioned very early on that you went to therapy, and mentioned you've been through a lot in terms of trauma. So what is there anything that you can pinpoint that has really been a huge staple in your life that has affected you?
Oh yeah, my mother and I have about as bad of a relationship as you could possibly have.
Really?
Oh yeah, my parents are still married. I haven't talked to my mother had a relationship with my mother in probably almost 10 years.
Wow.
We're very similar but very different. My mother's probably got some undiagnosed mental illness that she doesn't address. But my entire life, I was always not good enough for her. So to the point where I was homeless for a couple days because she threw me out of a house that they owned. And it wasn't listen, when I say homeless, I mean like we crashed at a friend's house because we didn't have a place to stay kind of scenario. Not like I'm living on the street situation.
Car,
so we slept in a car one night, but but again, I'm crying with a loaf of bread at the bottom. I had money in my checking account. I was just getting situated because I had enough. But yeah, man, listen, she went through a ton of trauma in her life. I'm not taking away anything that she went through, but it just, I got to a point in my life where my mother's trauma couldn't be mine anymore. And we stopped speaking. And I know that was hard on my father because we do a lot of business together. I know that was different from my brother. But when you grow up never thinking you're good enough, you start to kind of believe that, which is why, listen, man, I played, you know my history a little bit, and this is not a flex in any way, but I've kind of done it all. And I'm very fortunate to do that. But bro, I'll be playing HQ, which I've done a million times. I did it 2 weeks ago with two friends. I was opening, there was 1,200 people there.
Yeah,
they sold every ticket.
That was pretty cool.
It's wild. And listen, I've worked with those guys before and they're great. But I'll still turn around and look at the sound guy or look at a friend that's like, yo, it sound okay? Like, is it good?
Right.
I know people are having a good time. I'm not dumb.
Right.
But my own insecurities, I'll still turn around and be like, yo, like, am I good? Like, am I fucking this up? Like, the first time I play in a new venue, I'll pace back and forth in my house for fun. Like, I've done it a million times.
But it's exciting though.
No, it's great. And again, I'm super, super thankful. But when you grow up being told that, well, how'd you do on the test? I got a 99. Well, why not 100? Okay, well, 100's the way it should be. It's like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, and it was always like that. So yeah, so the trauma, listen, a lot of it stems from my mom for sure. And that's a whole nother podcast.
We'll get you on like a few times.
There you go. That's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, listen, man, and that, in fairness, some of that jaded my bad attitude. It's not even a bad attitude. It's just my directness and my bluntness and my also stuttered for most of my childhood life.
Really?
So like I couldn't speak until about 4th or 5th grade, which is wild for a guy that speaks in front of thousands of people now on a regular basis. But I got made fun of for the majority of my childhood because of that. So when I went to speech therapy on top of the other fucking therapy, and I fixed the problem, I had this weird chip on my shoulder. Like I'd been picked on my entire life. I'm never going to not have something to say back again. Like I wasn't able to speak and defend myself for 8 or 9 years of my life. And I swear to God, I'm never going to ever keep my mouth shut again. And that has gotten me in more trouble than I could possibly imagine and explain to you.
Wow.
But you're always going to get me. And I just don't know any other way. And that doesn't work for everybody. Good, man.
Yeah. So I guess I was going to ask too. So what's next? So what are you looking towards next?
Well, I got the Wildwood projects coming. We're building 3 brand new venues on Pacific Avenue in Wildwood, New Jersey. I'm going to have a day club, bar restaurant, and a bar. Bar. But we're building those. My partners are pretty big developers and venture capitalist guys, and they're buying up land left and right down there. And our first project is a 64-room hotel, 3600 Pacific, and then Fairview Social will be the restaurant, Weiss will be the bar, and then Forecast, spelled F-O-U-R, like the exit on the Parkway, will be the day club, like the traditional day club. And the hope is, that is successful enough that I could chill a little bit on the DJing as many nights a week as possible. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to travel around and play in different markets and different places. And those gigs obviously pay a little bit better than staying local, and a lot better than staying local. So like, you know, ideally I travel 2 weeks out of the month and then I'm home, and I show love to the accounts that I still, you know, want to play at, but I don't have to do this. Like, I don't have to sit and look and go, okay, I need all of March filled, or like I need all of April filled. It's I know the summer carries me, and then, you know, we're trying to build 3 or 4 different ones of those down there. So
yeah, that's exciting. I saw your post and I'm like, oh my shit, that's pretty dope. That's pretty cool.
It's
I think Wildwood needs it, honestly.
Listen, they need a lot of things. You know, we talk about the culture, like I'm the young kid there, you know, like I'm the young whatever, like I'm the guy ruining their nice little shore town and whatever. But it's weird. It's weird now because now I have to be very careful what I say publicly, because we're being quoted on things that I never even talked to this news article that wrote the article about our places, you know?
Oh, really?
Never spoke to them. They took an Instagram story of mine and wrote a whole article about
with it.
So that's what's next. I mean, growing Double Down is always a priority for me. You know, the radio stuff has been great. We're going to do a couple things with the radio show and grow the Pitbull show a little bit.
That's pretty cool.
Really cool. Like, we're going to start doing some live interviews with some artists on there. And we're going to start doing some live shows where the DJs mix live on the air. I got to go out to the studio and meet with Edwin and whatnot and figure out with that.
I think you have a good radio. I think you'd have a good radio voice.
So Exodus is going to be the best. I mean, he's my host of my show now. He's my best friend out of Vegas. And if there's a voice to be had for that show, it's his.
Exodus?
It's his. Yeah. So
well, shout out to him. I just had to let you know, because
I appreciate
if you were going to host
it,
you know, you think you'd do all right.
So like, I'll probably be on the show for those. But as far as the actual radio shows for every week, Kai, DJ Exodus was a guy that he came from Hawaii. He moved to Vegas to be a DJ, but his voice was so good they made him an MC first.
Oh, wow.
He's one of my favorite DJs in the world, and incredibly talented human being. But yeah, he'll always be the voice of that show as long as he wants it. But yeah, that's what's next, man. And I mean, obviously, I want to get the guys out of market more, and you know, we're still doing the Pitbull concerts. Me and Mike are both doing that next month.
You open for Pitbull, or what happened?
I've opened for Pitbull a few times.
That's pretty cool. So you got to meet him, obviously.
I've met him a couple times backstage. It's a very, very, very regimented situation, like with those things. Like, you meet in passing. Like, I've never had the privilege of sitting down and like hanging out, but we've definitely, you know, shook hands. And then on the stage, he'll show all the DJs that open for him love, especially the ones that are residents on his station.
Right.
But yeah, I've done that like 3 or 4 times. I've done a couple concerts. I did Mary J. Blige.
That's dope.
I did Enrique and Ricky Martin.
Oh, yeah?
The chunky Jewish kid doing the fucking concert. That makes sense, right?
So how did you go from being the chunky Jewish kid to you know, working at, you know, doing the XM radio stuff with Pitbull? Like, how does this stuff come about?
I wish I could tell you. I think the business sense gets a little bit more credit, or a little bit less credit than it might deserve, as far as like, where some might think it's me being a dickhead, it's me being persistent that has kind of But the radio show, I know Mike told you from his episode, it came from COVID. I had a relationship with those guys. I flew out to a Beat Source Summit. I was invited by Danger Zone and Mickey War and Rel to be on the Mickey D show from the podcast. On DJ City. So awesome. I was on that show with them, and that was, at the time, I don't know how far back you know with the history with that, but the Mickey D show was the original, as far as I'm concerned, between that and the Road podcast, the original DJ podcast that existed.
Relationships.
So actually, I do remember how the radio show all started. So I was headlining a date at Dare at the Hard Rock in Atlantic City, and Zach Seidman, who is my brother and my business partner in Double Down, Zach called me and was like, I don't know how I'm going to tell you this. And I was like, what? And he was like, your headlining date at Dare. He's like, it's during the DJ convention. I was like, fuck. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach. You're like, the fucking wolves are going to be chomping at me. Like, they all fucking hate me as it is. Like, here, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
I know every fucking person in the crowd is going to be a DJ.
Yeah.
They all are going to want to know how I'm in this beautiful nightclub.
Yeah, you're flustered before you even start.
Before I even press play. It turned out to be DJ Chaos from San Diego. And DJ Chaos, who is another incredibly talented DJ and an incredibly dope human, opened for me. And I'd been familiar with his shit and whatever. And he's an incredible, incredible DJ. And he has his own show on Sirius XM on Thursdays called The Roster Radio.
Okay.
And the guy that owns The Roster, this dude, Kevin McLaughlin, was coming into AC with him and was coming in with Edwin, who was the president of DJ City and the program director for Pitbull's Globalization. So now I'm just like, fuck. Anyway, we had a really good night. It was a lot of fun. Chaos and I hit it off as people, and we had a really fun night, and it was a really fun room. COVID hits, and our relationship kind of, right before COVID hits, there was this DJ City link up in Boston, which I got a phone call from Danger Zone. He was like, you should really fly out here. Like, you should be on our show. And the Mickey D show was a show I like idolized. Like every DJ I ever looked up to was on this show. Like, you want me on? What the fuck do I have to say? Like, I'm not important enough for this. So I go out, I do the show, me, Vinny Vibe, like we're all, Randy Greenstein, who owns Big Night Live. We were all on like a DJ City version of the Mickey D show, right?
Right.
And it was great. And I learned a ton and whatever. And then COVID hit and everybody shut down. And everyone decided that they were going to do Instagram Live or Twitch or all that stuff. And I sent an email out to the team and I was like, we're not going to do that. I was like, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. And quite frankly, I think it's a little corny. And everyone started fighting with me. And I was like, I don't think it's corny that anyone has an outlet to get through COVID. I don't. I'm a DJ and I don't want to watch this. I think we should put a mix out once a day for the 15 days we were supposed to be on quarantine, or 14 days, right?
Well, you saw how that went.
Yeah, right? So all of a sudden it was like, all right, like we're at day 14 and I don't think we're fucking getting out of this anytime soon. Like, why don't we just keep going? And every single day we pumped out a mix for 50 something days. Well, next thing you know, I get a meeting request from Kevin McLaughlin and Edwin, who's DJ Phenom. Yeah, and it just said, do you want to be on Pitbull's Globalization? I was like, wait, what?
Did you write that right?
I called Kevin. I was like, the fuck are you talking about? He's like, I think we got you a slot on the show. Like, just jump on the phone call. And so I get on this phone call, and Edwin's like, can you get me a mix by Friday? And I was like, no. And he was like, what? I was like, my man, listen, I am about as thankful as any human can be right now, and I don't know how to explain this to you, but there's no fucking way I'm getting you a new mix on for the first episode of this show by Friday. Like, can you give me 2 weeks maybe? Like, this was on a Monday. It's like,
because you wanted to be as perfect as possible.
It was, you're offering me an 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific time on Friday afternoons. Like, that's about as prime time as it gets for radio on the West Coast.
Right.
No one has any idea who we are over here. I need this to be right. So you got to let me set some things up. And and that was it. And now we're on episode like 140.
That's awesome.
Of the show, with the intentions of going to do some live recording and live broadcasting and things like that. And
that's great.
So between that and Wildwood and trying to get my kids on stage somewhere, that's really all I got.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there's things you can improve on in terms of like your mental health and maybe some things as a person. So what do you do? Is there anything you actively do to try to better yourself?
Yeah. I mean, during COVID, I lost about 30 or 40 pounds. Obviously the stress of all that didn't, but I got manic on like that part of it. It gave me something to focus on. I do a ton of reading. I spend a ton of time with my kids. That is we just unfortunately lost our family dog, but he was an incredibly therapeutic thing for me. Yeah, I said the last couple months have been real shitty.
Yeah.
But yeah, like not as active as I should, if I'm being honest with you. There's definitely more things I should be doing. I should be talking to somebody way more regularly. I'm just pulled in a lot of different directions. And if I'm being perfectly honest and transparent, the thought of rehashing some of this shit and addressing it is very scary to me and very traumatizing, I guess is the right word. And that's not an appropriate response to dealing with this shit. But I've been to a couple therapists throughout the years. I didn't have the greatest experiences with those therapists. And it's jaded the shit out of me from that. And I also don't like the immediate medication route, which I probably could use some, but like, when they first comes out of their mouth that like, hey, you should take it. It's like, well, maybe I should just tell you what's going on first before
Yeah, and I wanted to say this too. So I spoke to someone recently, and he's a huge David Goggins fan.
Okay.
And he said that one of his biggest things is to initiate or also talk about what your issues are. If
Sure.
you're fat, say you're fat. If you're lazy, say you're lazy. Because the first, I work with people in recovery as well, and the first, solution to that is to acknowledge what you're doing. So if you acknowledge you're not okay, that's great.
Oh, I acknowledge. See, I am. That's the problem. I'm extraordinarily self-aware of how fucked up I am. Like, I'm very self-aware. I'm self-aware that I can be tough to deal with. I'm self-aware that I could be arrogant or mouthy. I'm self-aware, and a lot of times you said, calculated was the right word. I say what I want to say, and I mean it.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's a better way of handling things. Like I had a relationship with a very close friend kind of fall apart, and it fell apart recently in a way that I'm trying to be real media trained here. Like I probably fucked it up, but I was never given the opportunity to explain why I fucked it up or apologize for fucking it up. But that being said, like the second I was able to talk to that person, I said, like, listen, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings like that. Like, I didn't mean to. If you didn't think I had your best intentions in heart, then you don't really know me, because I'm your biggest supporter for a million years. But still, like, that shit happens. And like, I'm very self-aware. I just can't help it sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know how else to explain it.
Well, I'll say it like this. So I made a few mistakes over the years, and like done some people wrong. I've retaliated because people have done me wrong.
Sure.
The only thing, what I've learned through all of my experiences, and I'm 26 now, so in my short life compared to most people, is like, you can only affect what happens next.
Sure.
Right? So it's like, if you were to do someone wrong, you say what you need to say to them.
Sure.
Let it sit and marinate with them, and then you improve at who you are as a person. You can only control what you can control, and that's the most important part. So like, that person, you may have said your piece to them. They may have sit and think about it. People are stubborn, so you might
listen.
Whatever.
I'm not always right,
but there's always going to be a time where that person says, you know what? Let me talk to him, or let me.
Well, listen. Well, then on that note, people know how to get a hold of me, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I am wrong a lot, and I say some shit, and so if someone's listening to this that I wronged or thinks I've wronged them, you know how to get a hold of me. I'm happy to sit down and talk like a grown up with anyone. Now, on that other side of that note, I'm gonna say why I said or acted why I did how I did. Like, there's a lot of DJs that I don't work with that hate my guts, but forget that I know that they used to walk into venues and talk shit on my company for years. Why do you book Double Down so much? Like I don't understand. Like, now you're asking to work for me and you're upset with me that I said no. Homie, the person who hires us was the one that's telling me you're saying all this shit. And also the nightlife world, man, everybody wants to pin everybody against one another. Like, there was always an old joke, we could all unionize, and like, if everybody agreed to the same rate and the same, then there would be no issue, but
that takes away from,
homie, that ain't gonna work. Like,
and that's gonna take away from someone who's been doing it as long as you have. It's also gonna I think it's gonna create egos, honestly.
No, I mean, listen, man, we're not gonna get rid of egos in this business ever, but what I'll say is this: as far as what I could get better at, I could be more empathetic. I can be less cutthroat. I can be more sensitive. I could not immediately go at your neck when I feel like you've came at mine. That's probably the worst one for me.
Right. It's because fighting fire with fire.
Again, like, I couldn't defend myself for a long time growing up, man. And like, I hear things that are said about me or my company or things like that. And a lot of times it's said by business partners of mine or friends of mine. I'm not going to ruin another relationship. And I've even called up friends in this industry, and I've said this to Mike Lowry. Like, I feel like sometimes his association with me limits some of his opportunities because people don't like me or they don't fuck with me or they don't want to be bothered with me. And I hate that. Like, I don't want anyone's relationships affected by me or my business, and I don't want anyone's opportunities affected by mine. So like, I'm working on everything, but I think I'm misunderstood in a lot of different ways as far as why I do the things that I do. But I also don't think sometimes I don't think I get enough credit for the fact that like a lot of this shit goes on because Double Down kind of paved the way for some of it,
right.
you know, like, and I don't think that's egotistical. It's just the reality of what it is.
Reality,
like,
right.
And it's almost like I crawled so a lot of people could walk. And I love that. Like, I want that to happen. Like a good coach surrounds themselves with people better than them. I want everybody to be better than me. Like, I don't have any problems with that. What I don't like is the ugly side of this. Going back to your original thing, like, I have to work on everything. I think we all do.
Yeah, we all, yeah.
But if there's somebody out there that's listening to this by some chance that thinks I've really wronged them in some sort of way, I'd like for them to hear it from me, whether or not that happened. I'd like for them to hear either my side of it, because I'll listen to yours. You can say whatever you want about me. As long as you don't disrespect my family, I don't really care. I'll sit down with anybody and I'll probably apologize because it was probably my fault. Like, it was probably my fault. Like,
yeah.
you know, like, it just.
Yeah, well, listen, man, you also have a very good side to you, too. And you sound like there's a lot of people who love you, you know, especially
I appreciate that.
Your Ubon family, especially, and you know, HQ as well.
Yeah.
You know, and so HQ AC is a pretty big deal. So how did that relationship come about?
So my AC story is not as long as a lot of people's. I played in Atlantic City for the first time at Kiss Kiss. It was an account that we started controlling. That account came about because the owner of Kiss Kiss was a guy by the name of Ivan Kane. I don't know what the scenario was that happened, but he got himself 86 from the entire building. And another management group came in.
Wow.
Well, I mean, and this is how some of the hatred starts for me. Like, this is a perfect example of this, right? Ivan King gets kicked out of the venue. Another management team comes in and takes over the operations of the venue, fires the current DJ company, and brings on us through Zach Seidman. All of a sudden, it was Weiss fucking stole Kiss Kiss. Weiss didn't even know Kiss Kiss was up for grabs.
Yeah.
Like, I got a phone call that said, "Hey, can you and Lowry DJ at Kiss Kiss tonight?" And I said, "Sure." Like, that sounds cool. I've never DJed in Atlantic City. That would be fun.
It sounds like a lot of. It sounds like one of those things that were like you just like kind of can't catch a break because like you get an opportunity and then.
Well,
like,
no. So that's that. I understand why it probably sounds like that, but that's not. Listen, I'm very fortunate. I catch a lot of breaks, and especially in this world, I'm sure half the people would argue I don't deserve any of these opportunities, and that's fine. What we do is we put ourselves in the right place at the right time, and then we seize that opportunity. Like, it doesn't matter what your relationship looks like. And I've said this a million times on a million different podcasts or whatever. Anybody can get booked at a venue once. It's not hard to get booked at a venue one time. It's hard to consistently be in that venue after all these years. We went into Kiss Kiss and I didn't have Atlantic City presence at all. And then all of a sudden it was, we were there every Friday and Saturday. We were there every Thursday, Friday and Saturday. We were there every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now we have this cool account. I was kind of switching professional careers and kind of moving around a little bit. And then I decided to focus on Double Down full time. And Zach, who seems like a pinnacle part of this whole story, who's a minority owner of Double Down, Zach took a job with the Hard Rock, Atlantic City. And they were opening this nightclub and it was going to be called Dare. And it was this cool thing. And we were going to do this whole thing. And he asked me to come and be an opener. And so we started doing that. And then the team started doing that. And next thing you know, like 2019, we're in Dare every single weekend, like every opening for everyone and doing all that stuff. And then Dare South Florida opened. And we did that. HQ came about when Dare closed. Zach took a job as director or as a weird, he was like a VIP liaison to like the casino customers and the nightclub, kind of like designed his own career. But Zach is the best host or nightlife guy that I know.
So I wanted to ask you too, I want to get a little deep.
Sure.
So what do you value? What do you value the most in life?
Wow. I value my kids, my family for sure. Like my kids are I can't not that. I value my team. You know, my family as a whole. My wife is incredibly supportive and incredibly. She's a special lady, man.
I was going to say that.
To stick with me through some of this stuff, and like she has to deal with all my ups and downs, and she has to deal with my nonsense, and like, you know, like I'm not the easiest person in the world to live with when I'm going through it, I'm sure, and I try to hide that from the kids as much as possible, but You know, there's a lot of slopes in owning this shit.
Well,
man.
that's what a partner's for, right? And
yeah, for sure.
And so I was gonna say shout out to her too, because
no doubt,
being as someone in the nightlife and having to have a presence, you have a lot of people around you, and you know, and I'm sure you guys have navigated through that over the years, but like I can only imagine it probably takes a lot for someone's partner to their person to be in that nightlife.
Well, it's funny you say that. So she came out on my birthday to Wicked Wolf.
Oh yeah,
I was playing, and she only comes out like once or twice a year. And a woman went up to her who I don't know who this person was and was like, I don't know how you let him do this. And she was like, do what? And she's like this. There's like a million people around him. Like you can't even get near him. She's like, it's his job. Like that's what he does for a living. Like, and part of our job is to, but Montone and I have talked about this for a million years. Without supportive people at home, the family thing is impossible. If you're a single guy and you don't have any kids and your girl gets pissed off, kind of, you know, like, not that I want you fighting with your spouse, but it kind of is what it is. Like we have a lot to lose with everything, you know? So it's one of those scenarios where you just got to get home, man. You got to just got to go home. Like, and I always go home. And that's the thing. Like I always get home. I always get to what I need to do. Like I was in Atlantic City for 2 friends that night, and Elizabeth's birthday party was the next day. Like I got to get home to go to the birthday party, you know?
Right. And so as a dad, what do you love the most about it?
About my world, or just being a dad in general?
What do you love about being the father to your 2 daughters?
Oh man, watching 2 people just come into themselves is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. Like watching those little girls kind of create who they are. Obviously we have some influence in that and whatever, but like I'm really big on them figuring out who they are and what they want to be. And I want to help them do anything that, like, I want them to have it all. But I also want them to understand, like I said, like there are people a lot less fortunate than you are. I can't have a bunch of spoiled brats, even though I'm very guilty of spoiling them. Like, but I want them to know that the world kind of stinks sometimes. And like, I'm going to help them. Like I always joke with the girls, and this is not a parenting tip, but I was like, we could hide the bodies together. Like we could hide them together. You just have to come and tell me, like, I can't help you if you don't tell me what's going on. But the coolest part of being a dad is that moment when you walk home. Like when I open that door and they see me and I hear daddy and they run over to give me that, there is no better moment in my life than that right there. Forget about all the festivals, all the fucking artists, all opening that door to my garage and walking into my house and watching them yell and jump off the couch to give me a hug. I can't replicate. I wish I could replicate that feeling for everyone.
Cool. Now I'm glad that you have a healthy, great family.
Oh yeah, man. I'm thankful.
I want to ask you though too. So transitioning back to your career.
Sure.
When was your moment where you're like, wow, like when it all kind of hit you at once?
I've had a few, and I still have them. I still very much have them. You know, opening that Hershey Pitbull concert was 20,000 people.
That was huge. I saw you post that. I know how big that was too.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that Hershey Pitbull concert was my first stadium, and it was full. And I have to tell you, what I was most proud about with that was it didn't go so great at first. And what I mean by that is Hershey Stadium is an outdoor venue. And this was in the middle of the summer. And it was an Iggy Azalea Pitbull concert. So Iggy Azalea was technically his opening act. So the way the schedule of the run of show went, it was Jason Weiss for 45 minutes, Iggy Azalea for about 90 minutes, Jason Weiss again for another 30, 35 minutes, and then Pitbull. So I kind of opened for both of them, right?
Right.
But, and I say this with the utmost respect to Iggy Azalea, but nobody gave a shit that she was there.
I don't think she had 90 minutes worth of music.
Well, she does, and she doesn't, but it doesn't.
The draw.
You're in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So you understand the kind of crowd that's around you in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and
it's not an Iggy crowd.
That's exactly right. It's not an Iggy Azalea crowd. It's also hotter than shit outside. So the sun during my 6 to 6:45 set is just pounding on people. And the truth of the matter is, when you're in a scenario like that, whether you think so or not, they're not there for you. Like, they don't fucking care that you're there. And I played it like I had played the last Pitbull concert and the one before that. And I didn't have them as much as I wanted them in that first 45 minutes. And then Iggy Azalea went on and she played a very hip hop oriented set because that's the kind of genre she's in. And I kind of heard them reacting a little bit, but not really. And I was peeking my head out and I was kind of looking. And so I sat in the green room and I got on my computer and I redid my brain, like what I kind of thought I should do. Like I re-planned my set and I went back out there and I hyped them up on the mic, which is not my favorite maneuver. And I had them in the second set. And that's where that selfie on my Instagram came from. I had them in that moment. And I was extraordinarily proud of myself that I didn't just shut down. Instead, I got this chip on my shoulder, like I'm gonna get these fuckers, but like you know, I'm gonna get them, and I did. And I remember driving home. I drove from Hershey back to Wildwood, because I wanted to see the girls, and I promised them I would come home. And I remember I sat in silence for a while, like a real creepy serial killer silence, just like, wow, I literally just played a stadium, like a fucking stadium. And not only did I play it, but like I had 20,000 people pretty fucking engaged on what I was doing. Now, granted, the artist they were there for and the artist they bought tickets for was about to go on, but like leverage that too. Like I used Pitbull to hype them up, you know, like,
right. And
I think that's the biggest lesson that you can teach any DJ is that it's not always not every fucking show is a movie and not every gig is like sometimes it just isn't, it's work. Right. It wasn't what I expected from the Pitbull crowd. Cause when I did Atlantic City, it was Saturday night, it was fucking Atlantic City. They were hype. Like it were 7,000 people instead of 20,000, but like, the stadium is wild, and like to do something like that, like to be able to go in and see that, you kind of look out, and I just shake my head. It's just like I don't like I really can't tell you how we got here, but fuck, I'm so glad that we're here. Like, what a fucking cool experience. But there was a better one for me, and that was when I lived in Atlantic City for a summer. Maddie was 3, Maddie was 2, Ellie was 1. And I remember having a Maddie Daddy Day, which we do a lot, and we were going to the boardwalk, and so I always park at the Hard Rock because my relationship with them, I've run all the entertainment for the Hard Rock from a DJ standpoint, and we're walking on the boardwalk, and all of a sudden Maddie jumps out of her stroller, and she's like, "Daddy, it's you." And I was like, "Yeah, Mads, I'm fucking right here. Like, are you been outside too long?
You good,
like,
bro?
Are you okay? Like, you good?" "Daddy, it's you." And I was like, "Baby, I know it's me. Like, you got to tell me what you're talking about. Like, it's you. And she gets up and she runs over to one of the digital boards, and my face was on it for the nightclub for Dare. And I was like, man, allergies are fucking bad. Like, shit coming out of my eyes that day. Like, I'm looking at her, she's like, "Are you crying?" I'm like, "No, Madison, I'm not crying. Like, get away from me. Like, I'm fine." Her excitement about me was the coolest thing that I've ever experienced, because I just know that like a lot of kids don't get what my kids are getting because of my career, because of that. And that will always push me to work so much harder, because listen, man, I want to be the dad from fucking My Super Sweet 16 where some artist owes me a favor and I'm like, all right, like the Justin Bieber version of her generation is at her party, you know?
Right,
like, I want to do shit like that. Like I don't want it to be about me, man. I want it to be about them. And I want at some point to build enough of an empire from a hospitality company standpoint or whatever, that when my daughters are old enough to experience that with a full security fucking team around them at all times, not playing games with that, when they walk in somewhere, it's like, oh, those are Weiss's kids. Like, we need to take care of them because he always took care of us. You know, he always looked out for us. He always did right by us. And we need to make sure that we do right by that. And that will mean more to me than any legacy I could possibly leave from as a DJ.
That's amazing.
The legacy I could leave for those girls is way more important to me than seeing my face on a billboard or a piece of marketing or anything like that. I'll stand by that till the day I die. Like, this is, to me, this is all a vessel, and a really fucking dope vessel at that. But this is all a vessel to get them to whatever level they deserve to be at.
Let me ask something.
Sure.
Do you think that your career would have been any different if they weren't in your life?
I'm not sure that I wouldn't have gotten caught up in the partying and shit as much. Like, I probably would have There was a point in time in my life before the kids got here that my wife sat me down and said, we live different lives on the weekends. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, I worked for a law firm during the week. So I was at work 5 days a week from 9 to 5. And then I was DJing 3 or 4 nights a week. And I can't tell you how many like dinners I left and date nights I canceled because I would get a call at like 8 o'clock. Like, hey, we forgot to book a DJ. Can you work tonight? Like, yeah, I wanted this shit. Like I wanted to do it. It was fun for me. Like I was good at it and people liked it. And I can't tell you how many of those things I missed. And she just said to me, she's like, well, like, you're working all week, you're sleeping all day because you're out all night, you're drinking too much, you're partying too much. Like, I'm not mad at you. It's just like, I don't know that this is what I want. And that's when all the shit kind of, so no, I'd say it would be different if she didn't push me to you know, because you could get sucked into the shenanigans of this world real fast.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you know people that are already in it. I'm sure you know people that are in it and gotten out of it. You deal a lot with recovery stuff. Like, it's really easy, man. It's really available. It's really easy. It's really accessible. And, you know, listen, this world isn't for the faint of heart. Like, we all got our damage. That's why we wound up here somehow.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah, it's true.
No normal person's like, I want to be in nightlife. Like,
That's
you know,
true.
Like, but yeah, like, listen, man. So could I say it would be different? I would hope not. But I think my drive to be successful is definitely fueled by them for sure.
I noticed that, and that's why I asked that question, because I'm thinking, would your drive come from a different would it come from a different source, or? So it
started. Listen, man, my father's one of the hardest working people that I know, and he built his practice off relationships, and he's the guy that taught you, you know, you treat the CEO the same way you treat the janitor. You know, like you never know who. You know, you take care of everybody. You talk. I'll talk to everybody. I'll shoot the shit with anybody. I don't give a shit. Like one of the coolest things for me in the world is when I go to Las Vegas and somebody's like, "Yo, where's your dad? Where's your brother? Where's your wife?" Like, it's 3,000 miles away. Like, you know,
right?
I love that. And I love when I go to Atlantic City all the time. Like the dealers and the hosts and the check-in ladies will ask about my kids and shit like that. Like, that's cool, you know. But I don't think my drive would have been different. I think my motivation would have been different. Like I would have been maybe more motivated to be more famous or more, you know, like maybe I'd go on tour with an artist if that was an option for me. Like I think the drive would be the same. I think the motivation or the focus might be different. Like now I'm very focused on building a business that can leave some sort of legacy and that can support their dreams too. Before it was just like, all right, it's my job and it's a cool job, but it's my job. Now it's like, it's gotten to the point where we have an opportunity to do something really cool with these venues in Wildwood and to have the ability to own an entertainment company and a hospitality company now and have them work together with each other is really, really cool. But I think that when I go home at night and I'm able to provide those girls with, I mean, we took, you know, it's nice to say, oh, well, Dad, I need this. Okay. Like you got it. As long as it's within reason, that's nice to me. Like the security that this job has provided for me now, which is why I take it so personally when somebody tries to take, you know, like it all goes back. Like it all goes back to it, right? And listen, and you know, especially in this market's so weird. And like when you get bigger and you start to, every market's like this. It's just personal for me because we all, you know, we kind of thrive at here, you know. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think my drive would ever be different. I've always been focused on being successful. I just I think I probably would have weaved it a little differently. Right. You know?
But hey, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So what do you think is the biggest / most important piece of advice you've ever received?
I mean, Eddie kind of gave it to you, you know? As long as you could sleep at night knowing that you did the right thing, as long as you can be comfortable in your own skin, which we all kind of struggle with, I feel like. But at the end of the day, as long as you can go to bed knowing that you are comfortable with how you handle something. And if you're not, then fix it. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like you've wronged somebody, then fix it. If you feel like you need to talk to something, then fix. But for me, the biggest piece of advice is to remember that everybody starts somewhere and not everybody's made for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go to a DJ gig, right, and you don't do a very good job, or the venue's not happy with you, maybe, like for me, like when a venue doesn't like one of my guys, right, it doesn't make them a bad DJ. It just makes maybe that venue not the right fit for them. We have so many different formats that we play. Like the format we're playing at Bankroll is so different from anything that we're playing anywhere else.
Right.
If I put a guy in there and he's not the right fit, maybe it's again, like it, when somebody says to you something, like you said it earlier, like the ability to take criticism. I think that is crucial in this thing. I still send my mixes to my friends and ask what they think. Like, I have a million mixes on the radio. I have my own fucking show on XM. Like, and I still will be like, Val, did you listen to this? Like, how did it sound? Or I'll send the MP3 to a group of friends that kind of monitor my shit. But I think being open to criticism, I think being honest with yourself about where you are and what you deserve is super important. And the biggest fucking piece of advice that I could give to anyone in our world is if the first time you talk to someone and you ask them for something, it's not going to go well.
Yep.
Like, I can't stress that enough.
Yep.
Like before you asked me to be on this podcast, you came out, you introduced yourself, you know, you had a drink, whatever. Like, you don't need anything from me. Me being on here doesn't do anything for you. I'm not famous. I'm not any, you know what I'm saying? But like, you came out. If you send me a message that just says, yo, that place is dope, how do I get booked there? It's probably not going to like it. It just means to me that you don't understand this world enough to know how it works. And again, it's just one of those, it's all experience. But you asked about advice earlier. It's a relationship business, man. It's a relationship business. It's don't let your ego and your pride, and I'm guilty of all these things. Like, don't let that cloud you from remembering why we do this. And why we do this is because we love to make people dance and we love to make people have a good time.
It's the root of it, yeah.
And we love to use music as a form of therapy and things of that nature. But I'll every single time I walk into a building, I need to make sure that staff is getting paid. And if I do that, they'll drag me to the ends of the earth with them. Because when you protect people's families and you support their families and you support their career and their goals, like, they're going to follow you to the end of the earth. And then if you do a good job on top of it, then it makes it even better, you know?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll wrap up with this. Like, I just believe being a good person and doing the right thing and also knowing your worth as well, having that balance. Don't get fucking pushed around. But it's a mix of a little bit of all three. And I think that is what ultimately leads you to become a successful person, not even just in this industry, but just as a successful person.
Yeah.
You know, so Jason, dude, we'll have to do another pod soon.
Yeah, I'm down.
I feel like we talk for forever, but
yeah, we can do it.
I had a great time, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for giving me your time, and you know, with that being said, I wish you the most success, and I'm excited to.
All right, here. So make me a deal then. When we open this new building down the shore, we'll come do one of these down the shore. A summer version of it. We'll sit out in a cabana by the day club.
I'll have a producer too, and we'll have 4 cameras this time.
Oh, listen, we can have no cameras. I don't want my ugly fucking face on your camera. But like, no, I'm saying, like, listen, when the building's done, and it'll be done in the next month or so, and we'll be open this summer. But we'll have you come down. You know, we'll sit in a cabana. We'll shoot the shit. We'll get some food and some drinks.
That'd
and
be dope.
You listen, we can have a couple guys on. We can have all the boys on. We can do like a whole group thing, you know, fuck around. And
I'm down.
I actually might drag Brendan and Zach on that one.
Yeah.
You know, those are my, you know, so Bren owns the property.
That'll make perfect sense, and we'll do us 4 then.
Yeah, and then you know, Zach will come in and kind of like or Amir. Amir's gonna help me run some things down there. You know, my buddy Amir's coming on board with me, which I'm super thankful for. But yeah, man, this is dope down here. Like,
Thank you.
It'll be cooler on the beach.
That'd be pretty cool. I've done a few travel pods, but I did one with Roses. She did nice. On the Chainsmokers.
Yeah.
But dude, I love traveling. I actually wanted to do more pods down the shore this summer. I actually was aiming on. I wanted to do that last summer, but didn't really work out. Certain people canceled last minute.
Sure.
But I want to do more gigs down the shore, more pods down the summer with bigger guests. So
sure.
I think that'd be pretty cool if we could work that
but
out.
I got one question for you before we go.
What's up?
So what's your DJ goal then? You asked about mine, but like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do moving forward? Since could probably help facilitate some of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you'd be okay with that, right?
All right. Yeah, so like, tell me what you want to do.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I just want to be one of the, I want to be, I want to build my brand up to the point where I could walk into a room and say, oh, it's DJ KEV or whatever. And I want to, I mean, like every DJ, I want to be a big DJ. I want to headline. I think that I have the musical ability and just the natural talent of it. You know, but I want to just do it the right way. And I want to do it, you know, as someone, you look at Kev and be like, yo, he's actually, he's great at what he does, and he's also a good person as well, and he, you know, builds a platform for people, and you know, I want to do it, like I said, I want to do it the right way, but I want to be one of the biggest DJs and just, you know, just have fun, you know.
All right, so what are you doing to accomplish that then?
I'm currently I'm trying to, you know, I'm networking with people, and you know, I'm taking every opportunity I get, you know. I've done Steam Pub and I'll be back there in April.
Nice.
You know, I've gotten some bigger gigs recently, and you know, I'm just trying to build that up slowly. You know what I mean? So.
Takes 10 years to become an overnight success, my man.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
It takes 10 years.
And like I said, it's for me. So everyone asks me what I want, my goals are this year. My goal is to be consistent. I have 3 things that I love, and it's the DJing, the podcast, and my nonprofit that I work with. And I want to build them as big as I can. You know,
that's great.
Be consistent and
well, listen. Let us know how we can help, man. We got a few connections here and there.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, listen, I would love that. I would love.
Yeah,
that.
man. We'll talk off this and figure it out.
Yeah, I'm down.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to be hard on you because I'm hard on everybody.
Listen,
but
I need it.
Listen,
what I told you, I like feedback.
I got told to fuck off the first time I played a fucking room that I wanted to play. So
yeah,
like if that's how I started. So
yeah, man, I'm down. Well, listen, Jason, thank you so much for coming on, and guys, I hope you guys are taking notes for this one. But without further ado, I'm Kev Nichols. That's Jason Weiss. You've been watching The Loft. Peace, guys.